Welcome everyone to the DOS Audio Vantec series webinar. My name is Darren B-Side Young. I'm the Director of Business Development for DOS Audio, also the manager for MI Retail Products. We'll get this underway very soon. I just wanted to welcome you and thank you for attending our webinar. And if you're able to see the handouts, make sure you grab those. And if we can get a quick roll call, I'd like to get an idea of where everyone's from. If you're from the States or not, what state you're from or city. If you're from not in the US, what country or city you're from, so we can get an idea. And welcome again. And feel free to ask any questions at any time. You guys can actually even raise your hand if you wanted to make sure we see your question. We do have a questions box. You should be able to ask your question at any point in time during the webinar. We will answer all questions toward the end though, but we don't want you to forget. So please ask as soon as you think of it. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. For those of you who are not familiar with DOS Audio, we were founded in 1971 in Valencia, Spain. We're a family-owned company, so it's privately owned. We have a very family atmosphere, and we have offices that are globally located. The US office is in Miami, Florida. We have an office in Singapore. We have an office in Brazil. And we also have a partner office in China. And obviously our headquarters is in Valencia, Spain. We are a factory-owned distribution out of the US office here in Miami, so it's not a third party. You're dealing directly with all of the sales guys, service guys that are all direct extension of the factory, and we really pride ourselves on that, and having a good, healthy inventory and a good sales staff and support staff to support you guys with any of your questions or needs. So again, I'm Darren B-Side Young, also known as B-Side for most of the industry. I've been in the audio industry for over 20 years, and I've been with DOS for about 6 of those years. And it's been really good to work with a company that kind of goes against the grain, more of a boutique brand. And speaking of which, the Vantec series is a very reputable series. It's a high-powered MI retail series that crosses over into touring and production, crosses over into installation and integration as well. And it's a great portable PA, whether you're a band, whether you're a DJ, almost no matter what type of artist or musician you may be. We do have something in this series that should fit your budget and definitely work with the audience that you're dealing with, unless you're dealing with like a mega festival. So starting off, we're only going to cover the Vantec powered series. And out of the powered series, you're going to be looking at here is basically 5 models that are both powered and passive. So we've got a 12-inch, a single 15, single 12, single 15. We have a single 18. We have a double 18, and then we have a double 15. This is a full range cabinet. Now, all of those are available in passive and active. And then active only is the Vantec 20A and the Vantec 118A. Now, this is active only because it is a fixed curve array, and it is easily deployable as either a ground stack with monitors locking above it, or as you see flown here with the subs on top and the fixed curve beneath it. So we have 3 subwoofer options: single 18, double 18, and then compact flyable single 18. And the full range cabinets, as I've denoted, 12, 15, double 15. And in the active series is what we're going to focus on today. Out of all the active units, we use a digital FIR filters in our signal processing, along with what we call DOS control. So you can adjust your settings on the fly, either using the DOS Link app or the DOS Link Group Manager app. I'll get into what that is later. You can also access the DOS control directly on the interface, the back. That's your LCD screen with the encoder. You can actually directly access those cabinets either with or without the app. And that's the beauty of the Vantec series. It's one of the only series that offers that type of flexibility, especially if you're looking for an array that you want to fly or ground stack. It's ideal for any live sound, DJ, public speaking, auditoriums, small arenas, churches, etc. It is proudly made in Spain, as I've stated, since 1971. We've been making our own drivers, our own cabinets, everything. 98% of our catalog is made in-house and shipped from Valencia, Spain, across the globe. We use birch plywood with an Isoflex coating paint. The Isoflex really helps protect it against a lot of rain or mold or mildew, moisture or dampness that usually takes place, whether it's an install or whether it is outdoors. And we use that Isoflex paint to help protect it against from scuffs and scratches as well if you're transporting the unit. We also have covers for all of the products in this series. The covers that we make, especially the ones that ship from the USA, are 4 times the thickness of the industry standard. So the covers we use are 20 millimeters thick, whereas the average is 5 millimeters thickness. Some people do 10. We actually have 20 on all of the Vantec series. We use what's called an FSC. Now, that stamp or logo that you see here is letting you know it's a Forest Stewardship Council. It is basically that we have resourced this responsibly. We're being aware and protective of the environment with the goods that we source, and that we are basically minimizing our footprint when it comes to consuming wood and resources that basically can be depleted from the earth. So know that we're very eco-friendly and eco-conscious when it comes to manufacturing our products. And as a result, we are a part of the FSC, and we have been certified with the FSC, especially on all of our birch plywood cabinets. So it's not just the Aero series, Vantec series, Event series, Action series, pretty much all of the UX included as well, are all compliant to the Forest Stewardship Council. In addition to that, we have a very low energy consumption. We actually have some of the lowest consumption in the market, in that the average Vantec product you're looking at here is only pulling about 2.5 to 3 amps. In some cases, the double 18 might pull about 5 to 6 amps. But when you compare that to a lot of the products in the market, you'll see that we are a half or a third of the average power consumption from most of the competition. Now, where that's important is really going to be, especially if you're going outdoors, or you're doing a private event and you're using something in someone's home, or you don't have much more than a 20 amp circuit. In many cases, homes have a 15 or 20 amp circuit. A lot of times you'll plug in some speakers and gear. The minute you start plugging in lights and whatever other audio equipment you have, whether it be a mixer, a guitar amp, guitars, whether it's a band or a DJ, the minute you start adding all these other components, it's really going to be crucial that you have something that does not pull too much electricity or consume too much power, because then you're going to be limited, or you're going to be running extension cables to the backyard or around the house, to the neighbor's house. To avoid all of that, we design our products to be very efficient, in that we don't want a lot of wasted watts. It's very energy efficient, even down to the ability to do what we call standby mode, which is a great feature of the Vantec series. Standby mode allows you to select when the amplifier will actually not only mute, but will actually shut off. So the amplifier shuts off either after 30 seconds, 1 minute, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever your setting, your desired setting is. You set your standby mode in your options setting, and when you get to that time limit, the amp actually shuts off. Within milliseconds, a signal is sent to the speaker. It will automatically re-engage the amp and turn the amp on, and you'll get audio present. So it's a very useful feature, a very eco-friendly feature that we have in all of the Vantec series. So it's very energy efficient and very low energy consumption. So it's some of the most efficient speakers in its class. We are very, very reliable, highly dependable, with less than 1% of a failure rate out of more than 50,000 units sold. And that is a very impressive number, especially if you've worked or been close to the industry. You'll realize how many other products or how many brands have a very high failure rate. When you're looking at less than 1% out of 50,000 globally, that number is very impactful in that we have a very durable, a very reliable product. You don't have a lot of returns, whether you're a customer or whether you're a dealer. You won't have the headache of trying to get a lot of things fixed or repaired, or having what's called DOA, a product that is dead on arrival or dead out of the box. Very plug and play, very easy to use and easy to set up. We have quick start guides, user guides. We even have apps that allow you to make it easier for you to set up and sound good. A lot of our speakers have very equal or similar fur filters, especially in the higher end products. And we have a very standard phase and polarity in that when you're setting up a sub with the top, the phase and the alignment of those are going to be almost seamless, whether you're using an action sub or an action top with a Vantec sub, for example. You can use a small format or small curved fixed curve array like the Vantec 20 with a larger sub such as the Event 121, and you don't have to worry about using the polarity buttons on the back. Everything we try to do is, remember, coming from the same engineers with a lot of the same voicing. So we take that into consideration, unlike a lot of the other big brands where you buy one top from the same manufacturer and then you buy another top from the same manufacturer, maybe in the same series or in a different series. They don't automatically line up, and a lot of people don't know why it sounds like the highs are overpowering the lows, or I'm feeling the highs first, or the lows don't reach the same distance when I use this sub versus the other sub. You'll see when it comes to time alignment and phase and polarity that our products across the entire series of all the different series we make are very easy to set up and plug and play. We also offer various colors and finishes in our products, especially in the Vantec series. We have the Vantec 20 sub and top, which is the 118A sub, and the Vantec 20A fixed curve for installs at lounges, churches, clubs. Even a lot of portable guys do weddings, quinceañeras, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs. Some of those guys want white products, and we have that available. We stock the Vantec 20A and several other Vantec series in white and in black. So getting into the DOS control here, we have an interface. You can see this is two analog inputs. This is the knob for these individual inputs. This is a Neutrik, an official Neutrik combo jack, not a knockoff. You can use a 1/4 inch or an XLR connection into either, and it will go out the output. You have the ability to use the switch basically as a signal flow divider, whether you wanted to only send channel 1 to the output or only send channel 2 from the output, or you can do the mix of the two. That would go from the out, and that can go either to another sub, it can go to another top, it can go basically to whatever other signal flow you needed or signal chain you wanted to connect it to. But you have two channels of input here. This 1/8 inch input here is tied to channel 1, and also on channel 1 is the Bluetooth or the wireless connection. And I'll explain the wireless feature capabilities of the Vantec series a little bit later when we get into the DOS link and some of the other configuration guides that we have. But what you're looking at here is our DOS control interface. This is the LCD screen and the encoder. You can easily click the encoder and go through the menu. You have the ability to adjust the presets. We have 5 presets on the Vantec series, which is very efficient and affordable to use, from live, dance, vocals, and bass boost, which is a unique feature. When we first launched the Vantec series, we were the only manufacturer to actually have a dedicated bass boost, where, as you can see, dance mode, which is what most people call boost on their speakers. So if you're looking at most competition, it'll say boost, but it'll actually boost a little bit of the lows and a little bit of the highs, giving you kind of a wide smiley face curve. With bass boost, you're only pushing additional low end frequency. So around 80 hertz, you get an additional bump or an additional increase of volume in that frequency range without any additional high end frequency being added. So which is ideal, especially for guys who are looking at basically using a 15-inch and don't want to lug a sub. You want to get more bottom or more bass out of it, especially if you have a 15-inch driver. You can actually have that set up to do just bass boost and actually get the low frequency without increasing the highs. Monitor mode is ideal if you're going to use it as a floor wedge monitor. Vocals obviously would cut a lot of the low end frequency and giving you basically the highs. Live is your default setting. We also have HPF, is with your high pass filter, and you can see you can leave it off. You're not cutting any of the highs. You have 63 hertz, which basically starts to roll off the highs a little bit from 63. The V18 is usually around 80 hertz crossover, and then you have 100 hertz. Now these slopes don't seem very drastic. Remember, this is all low frequency starting at 100 here. So from off, you get full range, 63 hertz, which is basically down here. Then you're looking at now, very subtly, you're crossing over around 80, or here you're crossing over around 100. This is when you want to connect the top and then have maybe a sub connected underneath it. This gives you more mid-high frequency flowing through the top, and that crosses over the low frequency to the sub. What that does, if you're not familiar with a crossover or a high pass filter, basically makes the individual speakers, the sub and the top, more efficient and more focused on the frequency range you need to reproduce. In other words, let the sub do all of the dirty work. You don't want mid-range or vocals going into the sub. That's not an efficient use of the amp or that particular driver. Same thing with the tops. You do not want too much low frequency in the tops if you have a sub connected, because then you will get cancellation, you will get combing, you will have other unwanted filtering or unwanted frequencies not working together. So it's great to have this option on any speaker, especially with the Vantec series, because you can choose 4 different settings. In addition to your presets, we have what's called a stackable 3-band EQ. The stackable 3-band EQ is great so that if I wanted to, let's say, set up the system on live, or in many cases, a DJ will have it on dance mode, but then someone needs to make an announcement on the microphone. The average DJ or band these days, some of these guys don't have a separate mixer. So they're usually going through a controller or some type of surface where they may not have a separate microphone. This would be ideal for that DJ who's needing to make the announcement but doesn't have an external mixing console to run the frequency. And you're also going to look at adjusting the low, mid, or high, in many cases, the mid frequency in this example. If I have it on dance mode, it's cutting out a little bit of the mids. If I want people to hear the vocal presence of a singer or a speech, I can actually go in the back of the units, directly controlling the units individually, or if I have the app, I can actually do the DOS Link app, and I can actually control this remotely. And I can increase the mid frequency range so that people can hear the speech, especially if, like I say, I'm using a controller. And you don't have a lot of EQ control on most of the average DJ controller. Your microphone is just a volume knob, and that's usually all you're going to get. So in this case, the 3-band EQ is very, very useful to stack that on top of your preset. You can use it either or, the preset that's on board, or the 3-band EQ, or you can use a preset and then color the sound the way you prefer with the stackable 3-band EQ. This is showing you the interface of the 18A as well as your filtering from the single 18 or the double 18. Now, here is the interface where you can actually adjust with the encoder a lot of the presets. On the units that do not have DOS control, you have the ability to adjust your volume level and set your crossover. Typically, people are using 100 hertz as your crossover point. it is not mandatory that you stick to 100 hertz. If you're doing EDM, DJ music, or if you have a live band and you want more low-end presence, you can actually get a warmer sound by using this crossover and going down to 90 or even below, all the way down to 80 hertz. That way the sub is going to do all of the low end, and then your tops are actually going to be a little bit warmer, and you're not going to have the fighting between low frequencies coming out of both the sub and the top. When you do that, you have the option of doing either the high pass filter on the sub, or you use the high pass filter on the top. You do not want to use both, because then you're going to be double crossing, and you never want to double cross. You also have the ability to do an AC input and AC output, so that you can actually daisy chain the power from the sub to another sub, or from the sub to the tops. We have things called combo jumper cables, will make it great. It's a single sleeve that has both the power and the signal, where you can actually jump from the sub to the top and have your setup really clean and neat. The expander on the Vantec series is very unique, especially if you're in a silent environment or you're doing just talking heads, public speaking, and you don't want to hear any noise coming out of the speaker, because traditionally most amplifiers or most speakers have something called signal noise, and obviously the hotter your signal is, the more you're going to hear like a small slight hiss in the background. With the ability to do either standby mode, the whole amp shuts off, you don't hear anything, or with the option of the expander basically operates as a noise gate, and you can set the threshold of that noise gate, meaning you won't hear any of that that silent hiss or the amplification basically sending no signal to the drivers. You won't hear any of that, and once audio is present, it usually overpowers that small subtle signal noise in the background. So expander is an option for a little bit more of a pro user. If you're not familiar with it, easiest thing to do is leave it off and then turn your standby mode on. Delay is also a very cool feature to have, in that you have up to 9.9 meters of delay. That's about 32 feet. And if you're not familiar with delay, delay is going to be ideal if you have a staggered setup. So let's say you're a band or a DJ, or if you're just doing public speaking, and you have a general audience in one area of the dance floor, let's say, and you have one speaker closer to you, and then the other speaker is closer to the audience. Well, obviously, if you don't use any delay or do any filtering or any adjustments or timing, you're going to have everyone closer to that speaker is going to hear that speaker first. And in many cases, such as a wedding or a party, people are going to say, hey, that speaker's too loud. And in many cases, it's not that it's really too loud, it's just that the speaker on the other side, they're not hearing that speaker as well as they're hearing the speaker that's close to them, because that signal is hitting that person first. With delay, you have the ability to make the speaker closer to the center of the room or to the audience. You can time that back so that when you're standing in the middle of the room, even if the speaker's closer to them, they're hearing both speakers arriving at the same time to a central location. Obviously, if you move around, that's going to change the time. So obviously, you want to use delay if you have a staggered setup where one speaker is much closer to an audience and the other speaker is further away. You can actually time that back so that both speakers will send signal and reach the audience at the same time. Here we show the filtering and phase response. The FIR filters basically give better frequency response, smoother across all frequencies, so that all frequencies arrive to your ears or to the human ears at the same time. You don't get the high sibilance arriving before the low or mid-low frequency. You want everything to arrive smooth and evenly to your ears at the same time. It's less fatigue on the ear and the human body. And with phase response, typically you're looking at a system that will have 1 or 2 turns of phase. Normally you'll have a turn of phase between your low frequency and your high frequency, but you don't want to see phase turning over in the mid highs, because a lot of systems out there are almost like an old 3-way, 4-way system where you've got a phase turn here, and then another phase turn here. All of those things complicate your ability to have a smooth and even sound. It doesn't sound as natural. It doesn't reach your ears at the same time. It gives you ear fatigue, makes your body seem like you're more tired than normal, and it just doesn't sound as good at the end of the day. So you want a smooth, even phase response. And this is achieved by us using the FIR filters. It gives you more intelligibility, it gives you more definition, makes the sound quality better. We have multiple options for the pole mount. We have your 0, which is your standard straight, and then we have a -10, which basically gives you a nice down angle. That's ideal if you're going to have the speakers higher up, or let's say you have speakers on a stage, but you have an audience that might be 5 feet from the stage. If you keep the speakers straight, you might not get the first row or two, or if people are standing even, let's say, in the pit, it's going to go right over them. So you have the ability to angle down at 10 degrees instead of 7, because you want that extra 3 degrees of coverage to make sure the people in the front are going to be able to hear everything just as evenly as the people in the middle or back. Now, when we get into the Vantec 20 and the 118A, which are kind of like the star of this series, for a lot of people, they are the newer members of the Vantec series. So we're going to give you a little bit more information on that and how they operate and how they work together. Now, you do not have to have this particular sub if you're interested in deploying, let's say, a portable system and you're not going to fly your subs. We would recommend that you go with the single 18 or the double 18. It's a more efficient bang for your buck, so to speak. You're not paying for rigging hardware and features that you're not going to use, especially if you're not going to fly it. So the Vantec 20 does pair with the 118A. You can see the rigging hardware allows you to lock from underneath or on top. You can put 2 subs and stack 1, or you can actually fly the subs and stack multiple. You can even fly 4 or 5 Vantec 20s from one hang point, and that would be great if you're doing a 2-level setup where you want to cover some of the balcony and all of the floor. So this is the ideal if you're going to be flying. If you're not going to be flying, we recommend the Vantec double 18, and you can do a short pole with 1 Vantec 20 on top. So for the 20A and the 118A, excuse me, oh, let me back up one here. The Vantec 20A and the 118A, it's a fixed curve array. So it's not a true line array where you have the ability to angle and adjust the individual cabinets. They're fixed. Each cabinet of the Vantec 20 gives you 15 degrees of coverage. So let's say you're comparing this to an event 208 or an event 26 line array. Each of the event series line array is a true line array. They're individually 10 degrees each cabinet. So your splay coverage is going to be a little bit different, but they're 10, 10, 10. So for example, you have 3 208s, you're getting 10, 20, 30 if you're keeping them straight. If you have 2 Vantec 20s, you can get 30 degrees of coverage by just using 2 cabinets. Now that may be ideal if you're in a shorter throw situation where you don't necessarily need to go past 100, 150 feet with an audience, whether you're indoors or outdoors. Maybe the Vantec 20 is going to be a better fit for you if you want to deploy just 1 cabinet. Ideally, you don't want to just deploy 1 10-degree cabinet because you're only getting a very narrow beam of coverage. This gives you a little bit more. You can use 2 or 3. Obviously, the more you use, the wider that dispersion is. So keep that in mind when you're looking at a fixed curve versus a true line array. The top, Vantec 28 top, is 1500 watts peak. The sub is 2000 watts peak. We have FIR filters for linear phase response on the tops. We're using 1 12-inch driver with 2 high-frequency compression drivers and 1 horn. So that really gives you the ability to have more detailed voicing and clarity and adjust the throws. I'll get into that in a minute. It's a very compact design with high output. You do have DOS control. You have the ability to use DOS link. It is the only line array that allows wireless control and or streaming. So you can do wireless streaming of 2 units, or you can do wireless control of multiple units, like 16 units, for example, if you're using the DOS-Link Group Manager. And then we have a click-lock rigging system with pins that make it super fast and secure to rig this system together. The sub in here does have a low or loud setting, like most of our subs. You do have a variable low-pass filter, so basically a built-in crossovers on the subs. It goes down from 80 all the way up to 125. You have the ability to turn the logo off and on with the depress of the button. And as you can see, it rigs easily with the Vantec 20A top. So the features of the 20A are a little bit different than your typical Vantec cabinet. Here, you have the ability to adjust the number of units. And you have the ability to adjust, the number of units, your crossover, and your high pass filter, and your throw. So those are just some of the settings. And remember, you can adjust this off of directly off the cabinet, or using the DOS-Link app or the DOS-Link Group Manager. So right here, you can see each of these is showing you a slightly different graph or frequency response. That depends on the number of units or the throw. So you have you have 5 settings of throw. You have short, mid-short, mid-long, and long throw. Obviously, if you're going to be outdoors, you need to get a further distance, you're going to put it on long throw. If you're indoors and let's say you've got a wall 20 feet away from you, you don't want it on mid or mid-long or long, because you're going to get high frequencies to reflect off that wall. You put it on a short throw so that the high frequencies are decreased and you get less reflections. That's the ideal use case for your throw. And then you also have the number of units. The number of units plays into that when you have 1 unit by itself versus 2 units, 3, 4, etc., up to 5 units, you adjust the number of units, and that will adjust the actual high frequency curve, or the levels of high frequencies. As you can see, pretty much anything above 250 or 200, you get more high frequency to balance off the coupling of the low frequency. What's not on this graph is when you have 2 or 3 12-inch drivers stacked on top of each other, you get what's called a low end or low frequency coupling. That means that those low frequencies start working together and they start sounding louder than the high frequencies. So to balance that out, you adjust the number of units you have on your cabinet. That allows you to evenly increase the high frequency to match what is automatically happening with the low frequencies by just adding the number of cabinets. So it's really important that you set your number of units to match what you physically have. Or if you're outdoors, you might want to have a little bit more of high frequency to cover an area. Now, for the Vantec full range cabinets, that's your 12, your 15, even your double 15, and even the Vantec 20, which is the fixed curve array. You have the ability to go wireless to 2 devices. You can go directly without any app and stream stereo wireless to 2 devices at one time. You can go from a tablet, a phone, you can even go from your computer. Ideally, you want to have 20 meters in between the source and the first cabinet, and you can even do another 20 meters. I've gone 30 meters with a phone, really further than that. I've done about 30, 35 meters easily with a phone connected to 2 speakers that were 35 meters away from that one source. So keep in mind, if you're outdoors or you're in a high traffic area, obviously your distance is going to be subject to Bluetooth traffic or how much wireless congestion you're going to have. So always keep that in mind. I've done a lot of events where I've actually taken this system and I did 1 or 2 speakers outdoors on the beach for a wedding and a reception, and I had no problems. But on a very windy day, it was very difficult. I had to get really close. I had to keep that first tablet or phone almost directly on the first speaker, but that still saves me some cabling and saves me some time of setting up or breaking down. If you wanted to connect more than 2 speakers from a wireless source, you do connect wireless to speakers 1 and 2, and then you can actually run XLR cable from your output from those individual speakers 1 and 2, and they can go to speakers 3 and 4, 5 and 6, etc. Your source can be wireless, but you can only do 2 devices. If you need to go to more speakers than those 2, you can actually do analog or run cable, should I say, between the other devices. Now, the difference, as I've kind of mentioned before, DOS-Link versus DOS-Link Group Manager. DOS-Link, remember, is up to 2 cabinets. It allows wireless streaming of audio and control simultaneously without any interference. If you're going to focus on more than 2 cabinets, you want to use the Group Manager. The Group Manager is going to allow you to have multiple clusters, zones, however you want to set up your PA system. You have the ability to go in with the Group Manager and group those individually together. Let's say you've got a left and a right hang, and then you've got some side fills, and then let's say you've got some delays. You can do left and right either as a group, or you can do left, right, and then make that one group. You can do your side fills and then make that a group, and then you can do your delays as another group. Cool thing with that is you can actually adjust your volume levels. You can turn the logo on and off. You can adjust your throw, your EQ. Anything you do in DOS control, you now have available with the app directly on your phone or tablet. It is a free app. Even if you don't have the speaker, I suggest you download it and get familiar with it. It's a lot of cool features and tools in there. This is the accessories that complement, especially with the Vantec 20. As you can see, AX is our rigging bumper to fly it. It is VT for Vantec 20. You have PL, which is our pallet cord or palette. That is the Vantec 20 stacking wheel board. This is the 118A stacking wheel board. So you stack the units on top and you just roll them out. We have the TRD2, which is our standard tripod, the TRD6, which is the short pole, and then the TRD7, which is an expandable pole. The TRD6 and 7 have something called ring lock at the top. That is an expandable ring lock that basically keeps the speaker from jostling around. It actually expands the cap, or expands, should I say, inside of the pole cup of the speaker that you're using, and it can be used on any speaker. So here's just some additional configurations if you were coming analog signal left and right into a pair of speakers. You could go directly to the sub, and you could use the subs crossover if you wanted to. You have the ability to go in with a larger system directly from a mixer or console, and then you can use the crossovers built in, or you can actually use an external processor. It's always ideal to use an external processor if you have the headroom and the ability to set it up that way. You'll get more efficiency. You'll get more use efficiently using your system. Basically, it's one location that you can tap into with directly off the unit or with your computer, and you can control all of the speakers that are connected to the processor. It's just a more efficient way. You get more headroom, you get more clarity, you get more control, not to mention you get the safety factor of some of the compressor or limiting that's automatically built into a processor. So we strongly recommend that, especially if you have a large system. Here's an example of the 18, as I was saying before. This is a great setup for live, whether you're doing talking heads or a live band. This gives you a really good compact. It's a very even, clean, slender look. The top is the exact same width pretty much as the sub, and you have a short or long pole option. And a really cool feature on the Vantec 20 is that you have a pole cup that is adjustable in increments. So you can actually keep it straight, or you can tilt it down or back 10 to 13 degrees of variance on the pole cup adapter. So it's not just a single 0 or a single 10 like most of the other speakers that we have that have an adjustable cup. This actually has increments from 10 to 13 to negative 10 to 13 degrees. This is the system showing you flown. You can actually link, again, like I said, power and signal with our combo jumper cables. So this is the Vantec 118A, and then you link basically down to all the other speakers. This is ideal if you're doing church or a festival, small stage, outdoors or indoors. You can actually fly these subs to get some mid bass in the air. We always encourage you to use subs that are going to be appropriate for your environment. So a lot of times churches may or may not want a lot of low end. If you want more low end, you can use the Vantec 218A, or you can even step up and go with the Event 121 or the Event 218 if you're doing a festival indoors or outdoors. Really, it's up to you, and it's up to your budget to really determine what type of deployment, but just gives you some options. It's always good to have that option of either increasing or decreasing your array, whether it's a fixed curve array or whether it's a true line array. You want to have that ability. You want to have that headroom. And it's always better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. So with that said, that kind of concludes our Vantec series overview with a little bit of a focus on the 20A and the 118A. Remember to reach out to us at dasaudio.com. We've got Das Audio USA for social media as well as our main factory in Spain. So you can do at Das Audio USA for Instagram and Facebook. YouTube, we only have one channel, that is the Das Audio Spain. That is the main YouTube channel. You can go there, see videos about the Vantec series, the DOS Link Group Manager. And if you guys have any questions, definitely, by all means, message us, email us, and we'll be more than happy to reach out to you. So that concludes this presentation on the Vantec series. Did we get any questions? Did anybody have any questions? We'll be more than happy to answer them now. How do you put 5 units? So someone's asking, I guess, about 5 units. Would that be Vantec 20? I think that's Andre. So I'm going to assume he's talking about 5 units. There we go. Awesome. So and I'll back up a bit if I can find the slide that shows multiple speakers here in right. Let's just say here. All right, so this shows 3. Okay, so as you can see, we've got 1, 2, 3. These are all fixed angles. You could actually have 4 above here and then 5 underneath that. Now, obviously, one is going to be with a slight angle up, and this other one's going to be a hard downfill. Remember, when you're going to 5 units at a fixed curve, you don't have any ability to adjust that, but you do have the ability to adjust your hang point. So technically, you could have your hang point straight, and then you can have all the other cabinets flowing underneath. Benefit of that is if you have a very short pit, or if you're right at the front of the stage, but you have an audience that is within a couple of feet of the front of the stage, you can actually get a really hard downfill with that bottom cabinet to where you may not need something on the stage or something physically on the ground in the front for what we normally call our front fill. You may not need to have front fills if you have 5 cabinets, but remember, it's going to be crucial to have your hang point where you need to cover a second balcony if that's the case, or how far back your audience is going to be. So your hang point really is going to determine whether you would need 4, perhaps 5 units. Typically, 3 to 4 boxes is your average, especially if you're indoors. And you can hang up to 5, like I say, with 1 bracket. You can do 2 subs, I want to say, in 3 tops with 1 bracket. It's the same rigging bumper, excuse me, not bracket, but it's the same rigging bumper that you use for the tops and the subs. So you just use that 1 bumper, and you can hang either or, tops and or subs together, or you can have a cluster of just subs or a cluster of just tops. Someone asked if you can reverse the cabinet for cardioid subs. Okay, so depending on the series, we typically don't have all of the series. So for example, Action series doesn't have the cardioid capability and setup. When you start getting into some of the things that are going to be more crossover use for, let's say, live use or installation, that's where you'll start seeing a cardioid capable subwoofer. And that, for example, the Vantec, I believe the 118A, and I'm gonna have to double check that. Gio, if you can double check that for me. He's the man behind the curtain. He's helping me with the webinar today. He's our applications tech manager and engineer for DAS Audio. So Gio will double check me. But if I'm not mistaken, the Vantec 118A, and I'm not sure about the 18, do have a cardioid feature. I do know that the Event series, because that is more of your deployable line array, whether it's install, touring and production, outdoor, indoor, the Vantec may have it, he'll verify, but I do know for a fact the Event 121 and the Event 218A have a cardioid button. And that allows you, for those who are not familiar with the cardioid setup, what it does is it helps you minimize low frequency coming back to the stage. What you do is you have either 2 to 3 speakers for every 1 speaker facing forward, or should I say 2 speakers facing forward. You would put one facing the opposite direction, and then you would input that cardioid button. What that does is that cancels out some of the low frequency that's going to be behind the subwoofer setup. So, for example, you've got a bunch of subs on the ground, stacked 3 high, for example. You're going to do 1 forward, 2 reverse, 3 forward, and you can do your whole row that way. Or you can do forward, reverse, forward, reverse, forward, reverse if you just have 1 row. And ideally, you push the cardioid button on the speakers that are facing the opposite way. Gio, are you able to confirm if the Vantec 118A? Let me see there. Okay, 1 second here. I'll check for you just to confirm and be sure. But I believe the 118A does have that feature. I'm not sure about the 18. So that's a very good question. And then someone says, do we have a comparison tab to other brands? So that question came from Bruno. Bruno, we typically try not to really compare publicly us against other brands because there's always so many different variables. A lot of times it's power consumption people don't take into consideration. We do have more efficiency than pretty much everything on the market. We are very fair and transparent with our specs. I'll tell you to compare us to whatever you're used to, but look at the asterisks or the crosshairs that are on the products and make sure that the power rating you're looking at is at 1/3 power. We're seeing a lot of manufacturers will give you what's called 1/8 power. And honestly, 1/8 power is just plugged into the wall, no signal present, not even continuous power usage or even any signal flow. It's just plugged in. And that's not a real measurable number, what we consider a real world use case. So we do ours at 1/3 the power rating, and you'll see at 1/3 power, we're a lot more efficient. Our amps and drivers are more efficient than what you would typically find. But if you do have a particular model that you want us to compare to, shoot me an email or go ahead and put it in the chat here. I'll be able to give you some comparison data that could show you the advantages and disadvantages. I'm not going to say we're the absolute best brand in the world because obviously there's going to be a threshold of when you get a certain price point, because I don't compare our UX subs to our event subs. You know what I mean? So a lot of people compare us to other brands and other products that are in a completely different price class. So as long as we're comparing apples to apples, I'm going to say, yeah, we got the best sounding, most efficient speaker. So I'm going to say, yeah, we got the best brand out there if we're comparing apples to apples. But I don't want to compare an event 218 to a UX 218. You know, you don't compare a $3,000 sub versus an $8,000 to $10,000 sub. It's just not a fair comparison. But if you have a particular model you want us to give you some data on, I'm going to type my email in here, and I'll be more than happy to send you that information directly. You can email me, send it to everybody. So you should have my email now. And if you can take a look, let me know what speaker you want us to compare it to, because I do have some comparison charts. We try not to just throw them around all over the internet, basically, so we're not bashing anybody. But all I can tell you is look at the asterisks. We don't say independent of protection circuitry and limiters when you're looking at our power ratings. A lot of manufacturers do that. We don't. All right, so Vantec series, let me answer that other question about the 118A. So I couldn't remember for sure if it did have cardioid setting. Here we go. So actually on the 118A, it does not. We've got deep loud, we've got polarity, you've got the high pass filter, and then you've got the logo on and off. So the 118A does not. I do not believe the 218 either, but when you get into the event series, definitely the event series does have that cardioid capability. And how many people? Okay, so someone's asking about the Vantec 118A and 320As. We're actually going to update our event simulator. Basically, we have an online simulator that can give you an idea of exactly how many people a particular system will cover. If you're indoors versus if you're outdoors, and depending on how wide the area is. So it's hard for me to tell you, yeah, if you have 3 per side of a Vantec 20, you're going to get 500 people, to give you an example, 300 to 500 people. But that depends on how spread out, how far back. So it's almost more area than it is the number of people. And I'll pull up our simulation guide to give you an idea of what you can use on your own to give you an idea of exactly to calculate whether you should be using a fixed curve or whether you should be using a true line array. 1 second here. I'm going to double check the 218 of the Vantec. Yeah, the Vantec 218A, I don't see a cardioid setting on that either, but I know for a fact the event does have it. And I'm going to slide over the event simulator, although we were talking about Vantec. Someone asked, hopefully you guys can see this. Screen 2, I'm sharing. Let me make sure I'm sharing screen 2. There we go. Bam. Sorry, I'm switching screens around here. I want to make sure you can see the event simulator. So this is specifically for the event series. We're remodeling this or redesigning it to include the Vantec 20 with the 118A. But if you're really interested in audience coverage, it sounds like you're probably looking at a system that's going to be a little bit more. You have English, Spanish, Portuguese, and French. And you can go into the configuration guide and choose. We will be adding the 212 to this as well. But let's just show you, for example, the more importantly is whether you're choosing the 210 or the 208, ground stacking is going to be very different than flying it. So if you're flying Vantec 20s and you're going to put them in the air at a reasonable height, if you're indoors or outdoors, that's going to really determine how far or how wide of an area you can get. And here you can see 20 by 20 meters, maximum audience size, let's say is up to 1,600 people. This is the event 208, remember? But I do want to show you something. And actually, I'll show you this, and then I'll pull up a little quick reference to showing you. See, when you ground stack it, you start losing energy about here. You know, this is from 0 up to 20 meters, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm going to back up and show you when you fly it, how much more coverage you actually get. Still going to be 4 units, but now I automatically increase the size, 20, and then the audience size. And this is just the difference between ground stacking 4 units or flying 4 units. You automatically get a lot more coverage. And like I say, now this is 25 meters automatically, and look at how much more coverage I'm getting. This audience area is bigger than the previous audience area, and even though I'm only using 4 cabinets, I'm getting more coverage automatically. I'm actually going to end the slideshow. I will pull up another slide to show you the difference between the Vantec 20 and the Event. So one second, let me pull this up for you guys since you have some good questions. I'll spend a little bit more time to show you. And then 1 second here. This is one moment. I'm looking for some extra slides that I did recently to show. There you go. Let me find it right here. I want to show you the difference between the Vantec 20 and the I didn't know I was going to get this question, but 1 second. I do have a slide that shows you kind of the difference between the Vantec 20 and the Event when it comes to comparing it. Excuse me. Here we go. I think I found it. Okay, here we go. Make sure this has the slide, guys. Just bear with me 1 minute. Hopefully this will be the right slide. And I can show you kind of the difference between the 208 and the 20. Bear with me 1 moment. I'm pulling it off the cloud so I could show you guys. It's taking a minute to download because I'm streaming. Yeah, I'm not able to get it. It's not pulling up. That file for me. If you go ahead and email me, and I'll be able to send you. This is actually something I could send you. It's a comparison of a Event series versus the Vantec 20, basically giving you a difference of coverage between the arrays. I don't have that right here right now, but I'll be more than happy to send that to you. And you see more questions here. All right, so no problem, Bruno, Andre, thank you so much. Where are you guys from, if you don't mind typing that in so I can kind of get an idea of where everybody's from? All right, any other questions, guys? Oh, wow, from France. Nice. Well, I appreciate you attending. I know it's getting kind of late over there. Nice, nice. It's great. I actually love my time. I actually stayed in France quite a bit, and would stay, I believe it's in Bastille, the area in Bastille, which is really cool. Really cool area. All right, guys. Any other questions? Oh, New Jersey, Amos. GM Audio authorized dealer from India. Awesome. All right, cool. So we got DC, New Jersey, France, India. Thank you, guys. Thank you for attending. By all means, you have my email. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'm sorry I didn't have that comparison slide between the fixed curve array and the true line array, but just email me. I'll be able to send you that information separately. It's not a problem. And I can also send you the comparison that I was referring to. Just let me know what model you were looking at comparing one of the DOS products to, and I'll go ahead and get that over to you.